My name is Roberta Walton Johnson, and I am your candidate for Orange County Clerk of Court. A little bit about me. I've actually worked at the clerk's office for more than a decade in leadership. Prior to that, I was with Orange County government for 8 years, and I kicked off my legal career more than 20 years ago at Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida, where I helped our most vulnerable residents receive benefits that they were otherwise entitled to. I came to the Clerk of Court in 2015 to open up the Self-Help Center. It's an opportunity for individuals who cannot afford an attorney to have access to resources to represent themselves in court. I'm pretty proud of that project because it is a premier self-help center that many in the state have mirrored since 2015. Today, I stand here as a member of the senior executive team and the general counsel to the Orange County Clerk of Court, and I am prepared to lead this county on day one as your next Orange County Clerk of Court.
Thank you, Good afternoon. My name is Singh, and I am also a candidate for the Orange County Clerk of Court. I come from a place of humble beginnings. I was born in a place with no running water, no electricity. Lost my father when I was 10 years old. My mother moved to New York City and worked 3 jobs as a maid. I tell you that to tell you that I had a front seat, a master class in survival, watching this lady survive. And she did it like a conductor conducting an orchestra, didn't miss a beat. And but in addition to having this very trying schedule and responsibility, she always had the time to give back to society. And she always taught us as children, you must never enter a room without leaving it better than when you found it. And that led me to the U.S. Army, where I had the opportunity to volunteer as a soldier. I worked in the weapons system for the Apache helicopter and the Cobra helicopter. And this was precision environment, precision training. And there was no room for errors. And that also reinforced what my mother taught me, to do it right the first time and get it right. And there's no room for errors. It also taught me discipline. It taught me teamwork. It taught me leadership. Leaving the military, I became a business owner right here in Orange County. I had 2 babies and a wife, and moved to Orange County as a young man. My brother moved to New York. And again, when I came, let me go back a step. When I came from Guyana at 10 years old, I lived with my brother because the apartments in the Bronx, New York were very small. And my mother stayed with my sister, who had a 1-bedroom apartment. And myself and my other siblings stayed with my sister-in-law. She was from Arecibo, Puerto Rico. So I grew up a little Puerto Rican, if you will, watching Lucha Libre. I used to peek at Edie's Chaco at a little age. So I tell you that to tell you that I am quasi-Boricua. You know, I visited Puerto Rico many, many times in all parts of the Caribbean. So I go back to telling you that as a business owner, it is very, very important training to be an elected official, because it teaches you something that is unique. It teaches you the difference between signing the front of a check and the back of a check. Signing the front of a check requires budgeting, requires training, requires leadership, requires bringing people together, requires recruiting. It requires leadership, and it requires executive leadership. In 2010, after leading a successful business in real estate, in the appraisal business, in the mortgage business, I heard a guy by many of you may or may not have heard his name. His name was Barack Obama. And he gave a wonderful speech that inspired me to run for office. And I ran for office in 2010, started my campaign, and ran against a 30-year incumbent by the name of Bill Donegan, one of the most powerful individuals in the state. His wife was the vice president of UCF. He was a 30-year incumbent, and nobody thought he could be beat. But with hard work, with perseverance, grassroots campaign, I defeated Bill Donegan and became the first minority to be property appraiser in the state of Florida. I became many firsts in that environment. So many candidates will tell you what they've done, and you will hear that a lot tonight, what they plan to do, I should say, and you will hear a lot of that tonight. I want to tell you what I've done as a CEO. As a CEO, I've led the property appraiser's office to a world-class organization.
Thank you, Rick. So, Rick, if you want, I'm just going to answer your question, then I'll go back to Roberta. Basically, the Clerk of Courts manages records and services that affect businesses involved in civil litigation, collections, contracts, evictions, traffic matters, and other legal proceedings. What specific modernization would you implement to make these services faster, more accessible, and less costly for residents and small businesses?
So one of the things I did at the Property Appraiser's Office was essentially tackling the same problem. It was an office of mundane existence. It was stuck in the dark ages. I see very similar activity at the Clerk of Court office, where basic customer service, is lacking. Basic human connection is lacking. If you're a business owner, you don't want to waste time, and you want to get it done right the first time without mistakes, and you want to get it done because you don't have time to waste. And I think every entrepreneur in this room can essentially identify with that. Technology is so important. I tell you that to tell you that I am one of the first elected officials in probably the country that has gone to MIT and took a class on artificial intelligence. Back when artificial intelligence was just a buzzword, I did that because I knew it was the cutting edge technology that was coming, it was the future. GIS technology is something that I would definitely implement. This is something that can gather information, package this information. Understand this, the Clerk of Court is one of the largest collector of public data in the county. And it is important what we do with that data. It is important for us to package that data properly, have that data very accessible, have it on a website that's extremely accessible. My website, the Property Appraiser's Office, is today still one of the best appraisal websites in the world. Not because it's a property appraisal website, but because it serves so many different business organizations. It served the city of Orlando, Orange County. I was actually one of the ones that procured GIS technology and essentially packaged it for other counties and other municipalities and other cities. So I tell you that to tell you that packaging information properly, expediting service, and having it streamlined. Being a business owner, coming from a business background, coming as a small business owner, I understand the culture, I understand the needs, and of course, that is something that I will fix on day one.
Thank you.
The Code of Courts manages records and services that affect businesses involved in civil litigation, collections, contracts, evictions, traffic matters, and other legal proceedings. What specific modernization would you implement to make sure that these services are faster, more accessible, and less costly for residents and small businesses?
So when you say less costly, I'm going to start there. Because one of the things that I'd like to share about the Clerk of Court, we are a constitutional office, but we're also a member of the judicial branch. And our role really is ministerial. Everything we do is outlined in a statute, a rule, or a court order. And so fines and fees are not decided by the clerk's office. They are decided by statute. And so how we implement the service, however, in our internal procedures certainly is something that I plan to wrap my hand around as your next Orange County Clerk of Court. One of the things I plan to implement is a multilingual navigator. And I think that as I'm talking to the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, this is something that I said to Johanna a few days ago. This is a project that right now, with me opening the Self-Help Center, I recognize there are still people who need to touch other resources. And there are people who need an opportunity to access the courts who might not understand what's happening procedurally. And so my plan is to put a navigator into and establish a navigator program right at the Self-Help Center. I've already worked with our court operations team, which is the judiciary, to do that for domestic violence. I currently sit on the statewide domestic violence task force. And so I work here locally, the 9th Judicial Circuit, because we saw a lot of people coming to the clerk's office in crisis. And typically that's how they show up, right, with the problem in crisis. But they were expected to complete the petitions in the forms. Those forms are approved by the Florida Supreme Court. Those are the only forms that we can use. And so, but with those questions, we put into place a person, an individual, a navigator to help them navigate that process, to ensure that they were answering the right questions without giving them advice so that they can have their proper day in court. And I think that's important as well for all proceedings. I tell you, when you get to court, certain proceedings to court, it is their responsibility to provide interpreters. That does not happen today at the clerk's office. And so that is a program that I would implement to help things run faster and to streamline services. And it's something I saw firsthand and already worked on, and would just extend that program. Another thing from a technology perspective is there are a lot of people who really don't have the time to come and sit in our lobbies, quite frankly. They don't have time to pull a number and wait their turn to ask a question. So I would implement more self-help services that can be conducted online. If you need to submit just a filing, you don't have to necessarily come to our office to do it. And if you come to our office, I will have a self-help center kiosk there. And within that kiosk, you will be able to submit certain filings without having to touch a person. So there are many opportunities for my attorneys in the room. I know we have our judicial candidates. They might be happy to learn that I also plan to place the attorney-only customer service line back in place. Right now, they're not like right. Right now, you have individuals who are representing themselves and attorneys, of which the business owners that you talk about, they are represented by attorneys. They're all calling the same lines right now. And it's not bifurcated. And that's something I plan to do, is to kind of increase how you serve based on the audience. Because how you serve is different based on the audience. And so those are some programs and some services that I plan to implement as your next clerk of court.
She just asked me my second question, also for Rick, and it was basically how would you modernize electronic filing, online payments, and court records access? And basically, you mentioned, but I'll ask you, Rick, how would you modernize electronic filing, online payments, court record access, and customer service while protecting confidential information against fraud, cyber attacks, etc.?
The same way you order a pizza. It's simple. Online services are to be accessible. There are apps that can be built. Again, I'm going to tell you what I've done. At the property appraiser's office, we had an extremely well organized public service outreach from a technology standpoint. We eased process payments. We essentially handled that in a way where information didn't take 4 hours. And the way to do that is to organize your customer, okay? Many people may look at an office and say we have one customer. At an office like the clerk of the court, you have multiple customers that we have multiple requirements. You have local government that is a customer. You have the public that is a customer that are segmented. You have a business customer, you have a frequent user, a frequent flyer, and of course the general public. You also have your staff that are customers because they go to different departments. And of course you have other agencies. So again, I would develop interlocal agreements with different agencies. I would definitely open effective satellite offices. And of course, training your staff is so important. You know, right now today, if you go to Google review, this office is ranked 2.5 stars. Think about this for a moment. Would you take your loved one to a doctor that had a 2.5 star on Google at the property appraiser's office? I took that level up to 5 stars. That was a 5-star operation. It wasn't an accident. It was purposeful. Training my staff. So going back to your question about technology, I embrace technology. I will implement the finest technology in the nation. I will, of course, go out and see what the best there is in the market. I would seek counsel. I would ask business owners what they're looking for. And again, I would take surveys and I would partner with the business community to find out exactly what the needs are. And of course, implement it and execute it.
And one more last question. So, This one just came up from a lot of owners, business owners that were asking. And it says, what safeguards would you establish to ensure fiscal accountability, ethical leadership, transparency, and public confidence in the clerk's office?
So one of the things is finance. I'm proud to say that I've gone through 8 audits of the property appraiser's office by different comptrollers and had 0 findings. I tell you that to tell you that I was one of the only elected officials that gave back $1 million from their budget every single year in 8 years. I was one of the first to put back to essentially fine $1 billion worth of assets from implementing homestead exemption fraud. I took the tax roll from $110 billion to $220 billion in just 8 years. I tell you that to tell you that you've got to seek out ways, you've got to find ways, and of course, coming from a business background, coming from a military background, and of course, executive leadership. This is an executive position. It is not a position for a department head. It is not a position, leading a constitutional office is like holding a lion by the tail. When he's moving forward, it's okay. But when he turns around, you need to know what to do. Something like COVID comes along. I was the first office in the state to go mobile in 1.5 days. When the rest of the county and other constitutional offices were fumbling for 2 weeks, my staff was at home working in 1.5 days. I did that because of practice. I did that because of training, and of course, hiring the right staff. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Rick. Roberta, I will repeat the question again. What safeguards would you establish to ensure fiscal accountability, ethical leadership, transparency, and public confidence in the clerk's office?
Okay, so fiscal transparency, fiscal accountability, I think right now the clerk's office does a wonderful job at that. Why? Is because the way we're funded is unlike any other constitutional office. We are actually self-funded by fines and fees. And so we are the cashier for the clerk's office, for the courts. We collect all fines and fees and we distribute them out. Not according to how we want to distribute them, but again, according to how the law says that we should distribute them. And so those funds are redistributed back up to Tallahassee and to more than 50 different trust funds throughout the state of Florida. So with that, right now, we are the #1 donor county in the state. And when I say that, that means we collect the most revenue and send it back up to Tallahassee for redistribution. Okay? And we pride ourselves on that, and that comes from that fiscal accountability effort that you talk about. Quite frankly, our budget predominantly is people, right? We have people to serve you all, and that is the bulk of our budget. We have, a very small IT team, which that is something I plan to focus on because I think we need additional talent in that area. But unfortunately, technology can't be funded in the same way operations can at the clerk's office. That's just how stringent our budget is. And so I would say fiscal accountability would be making sure that we adhere to what the statute and the rules say and how it says that we can actually spend those funds. When it comes to transparency, I believe that's the essence of being a public agency. It's transparency. Right now, as the general counsel, I'm actually tasked with being in charge of all public records requests. But not only public records requests, we also have another department that deals with court records requests. These documents are all open and accessible for the general public because transparency means that. I know Mr. Singh spoke about court data. He is right. We generate lots of court data. All of that data we share with a series of state agencies across the state because that data goes back out and it actually helps the legislature make a decision or determination of how we and other areas, i.e. those trust funds, should be funded. And so I believe transparency is paramount to being a public agency, and it's something that I certainly would hold with high regard, as I do today, and as the office does today. Another opportunity you said was,
And we are here, and public confidence in the clerk's office.
public confidence in the clerk's office. Now, I do believe that is that's leading by example when it comes to being customer centric. One of the reasons I was tapped on the shoulder by a member of the then elected clerk's transition team took me out to lunch and wanted to have a conversation with me about the program that they were discussing, the self-help program. I was tapped on the shoulder because of my ability to connect with the community and because of my background at community legal services in Orange County government. And so I took that same temperament with me to the clerk's office when we started the Self-Help Center. I think, again, one of the synergies you heard me talk about already in terms of making sure that whatever audience that we're serving, we are speaking their language. That's the rationale behind reinserting the customer service line for attorneys. I listened to what people have said along this journey, and I agree with them. That is something that should be reinserted back into our operational processes and procedures. And so being more customer centric, I think also starts with your people. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to pay our people a lot because of the way we are funded, quite frankly. When I initially started at the clerk's office, deputy clerks were making a little over $12 an hour. Right. Today, they make a little over $17 an hour. And I will tell you, we are pursuing, as a senior executive team, we just approved for an additional increase, a nice one, for an entry-level hourly pay increase for deputy clerks. When you do that, you enhance the quality of life of the people who are providing you with the service. And I think coming through the people and making sure we take care of those people is how best I plan to be effective in that area and accountable to the residents who elect me as their next clerk of court.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick.